PGA Nation, we are back. We are back with a super exciting week. We are finally in the swing of things. Of course, we are at our old trusted friend Torrey Pines this week. The Farmers Insurance, which is, not a major at all by any means, but it's like a mediocre bowl game in the golf world. This is the first event that feels significant of the calendar year with, a real field coming up. A lot to be excited about. Not just the fact that you get to hear who our favorite golfers are with me, with Sia, and Spencer as always, but we have a special guest with us tonight, the Model Maniac. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Thanks, Joel. No, happy to be here. I've been grilled already in the studio beforehand, and I feel like I'm ready to take on this episode as it comes, So loving life. Very excited to do the Farmers. When you guys gave me the option of which ones I'd like, I was like, yeah, I'll do this one. We can chat about some studs for a while. So let's do it.
So Byron, welcome to the show. And I think people know you as Model Maniac. So that's why I knew you as Model Maniac. So for everybody that's listening, his name is Byron. Byron, I watch your videos. First of all, they're really engaging and it's really good information, but it's also like kind of hilarious, which I just think makes you very unique in the space, just because it's, to be able to combine all those three things, I think is really cool. So we're hoping to have you back, at least a few times over the next couple of months, but so happy you're here. I kind of want to learn a little bit about you though. So can I ask you just a couple questions before
Absolutely.
We get into Spencer's models breakdown?
Yeah. And just thank you for inviting me onto the show before I've already done one. So I'll book you guys for that one.
That sounds good. Exactly. You're wearing a Jets jersey, right?
I am.
So you're a New York Jets fan.
I am a super fan. I'm everything Jets. After the Back Nine Bets podcast, the one that that you're speaking about, I was thinking, well, it's kind of easy to speak about golf, so why don't I start speaking? It's a separate thing I've got in the back of my mind, but I don't know if I want to do a Jets one because it's really depressing. So I don't. It's tough. It's a tough time to be a Jets fan.
Well, I was going to ask you though, because obviously you're a football fan. Do you play like NFL DFS? Are you just doing DFS in PGA or everywhere?
I'm the commissioner of my own fantasy football league with a bunch of friends from college, and I've actually taken down a fantasy football championship before. I've gone 11-1, and then, I lost one game in a whole season, and then lost the playoff game after the bye. So I'm a savvy football fanatic, so it's the Jets that bring me down a little bit, but the rest of the football season kind of keeps me afloat. So thank God for that.
All right, couple more questions before we get into the model breakdown. You have an accent, clearly. Where is it from?
I'm in Johannesburg from South Africa. I lived a few kilometers from where Ernie Els grew up. I played with Chris John Bezadno, growing up. I came over in 2011, played some college golf on a golf scholarship, studied accounting, and that's pretty much what got me into all of this stuff, is the numbers side of thing. And I wouldn't quite call accounting my passion, but two things that I'm okay at gelled into one, so numbers and golf. So it's a nice combo.
So you might not know this, and I probably, Joel Spencer, I probably shouldn't be telling him this, but the whole reason we had you on is because we knew you knew Christian Bezuidenhout, and you're our angle to get him on the show. But
Absolutely.
in all seriousness, so you played with him, a good guy. Like tell us about Christian Bezuidenhout.
No, this was obviously 12, 13 years ago when we were still kids, and he was a string bean. He's put on a few pounds here and there since I knew him, but yeah, he was just, I would say that we were almost on par with each other when, call it 2008. And then he just got really good, man. You know how some people's careers will take a trajectory, like something clicks and then off you go. And that's what happened with him. And he's a fantastic person, obviously kind of soft-spoken, and that's kind of like his game. He just gets along with things and just plods along and just does some serious damage. So
I have a quick question. Were you and Christian on the kids or the young teens tour together? Were you both and then he like took off, or was he more just like an average golfer and then he became closer to a professional?
Yeah, I wouldn't say like call it youth golf, right? In high school, I wouldn't say that he was the very best. He wasn't like, yeah, he was winning, a few youth events here and there, but he wasn't dominating. I don't know if you've heard of Donny van Tonder. Obviously, he's on the European side, and he comes across every now and then, and he dominates in South Africa, and he was one of the guys that was crushing it. And then Bezzy decided, okay, I like that. So whatever he decided to do, I'm not sure. His short game just took off, and the putting, and it seems like his driver's just, I don't know what he did, but he took off, man, and it's incredible to see. So
let's cut up, Joel. Let's cut up the part where he says Seabass wasn't very good, like at the beginning of that, and then we'll just edit it right there, and maybe we'll create some content out of that.
Yeah, I was surprised you didn't say. You said before we started the call that you taught him everything he knows. He wouldn't be a pro golfer without you. Like, you left that part out. I don't.
That's weird.
I mean, I don't want to tell the same truth twice. It's tough. You don't want to beat a dead horse.
Okay, so last question then, unless these guys have a question, then we can go to Spencer's model breakdown. Most interesting thing about you that nobody knows, that nobody listening would know about you. Maybe your family knows or friends, but we don't.
I have 3 hole-in-ones.
Whoa.
Yeah. I was at one point, I was doing it like every 3 years, just kind of racking up an ace here and there. I'm not necessarily a good iron player, but you can say I'm a spike iron player, and just every now and then it would go in, and had 3 in my life, and I've seen 2 of them go in, and one of them was kind of an uphill 162-yard hole that didn't manage to see until it was in a tournament as well. So I shot a clean little 33 on that back 9, so it was fun.
And you can confirm that those 3 were not in putt-putt.
No, it was a 7-iron, my dude.
Wow.
It was all the way up the hill in the hole. It was a stunner. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, but my first hole-in-one, I hit the golf ball into the water on the next tee shot. So if that explains anything about myself, that's that exact ball. So,
all right, that's all I have for the get to know you portion, fellas.
That was awesome. Welcome to the show. We're excited to have you. But as always, we're bringing you the same A+ content we bring you every week, and it wouldn't be a show if we didn't give you the best course breakdown you can possibly find on any podcast in any week. So I don't even think we need to waste our time, right? Let's just go right to Spencer. Spencer, please tell us, what are you looking for this week at Torrey Pines?
Well, first off, I want to tell the Model Maniac, thank you for coming on the show. It's an honor to have you on here. I respect all the work that you do. You're putting out really good content, so keep all of that up. But as far as this tournament goes, I know there are some mixed reviews around it as a whole, but I love these 2 courses. I did my first write-up in 2017 at this event when Tiger Woods was making one of his comebacks after not playing competitive golf for 17 months. And I wrote a whole article about how Torrey Pines would be the real breakout spot for Tony Finau, who was going to cement his name as a top 10 player in the world and earn a title outside of Puerto Rico during his idol's return. Unfortunately, Finau faltered over the weekend after holding the lead for a brief portion. But it was the first event I ever covered, and it was the first thing to gain me marginal traction in this space. We were talking about it a little bit off air. We've learned that Byron is good at titling his shows. Last week, Duck Duck Wolf was a catchy play on words with that. I probably would have gotten more views if I would have had him title my article that I did in 2017. Mine was extremely corny in retrospect, but there is a certain nostalgia that I get at this course every time they go back. So there's beautiful scenery and views that encompass the 36 holes of golf spread out between the north and south properties over the opening 2 days of the event. Everyone who makes the weekend will play both of their rounds back in the south setup. That awkward distribution can be a tricky split when modeling the pertinent data into actionable metrics, but I feel like the differences are more minor than the general assumption that is going on throughout the industry. Both courses have a mixture of long par 3s and 4s. There are changes to the grass types that I'm going to avoid placing into models, but the nearly 450-yard difference between the 2 setups can be pinpointed to a very specific 6-hole stretch. The 4 par 5s at the north are about 240 yards shorter, making their birdie or better percentage 15.22% higher than we get at the south. There are also 2 short par 4s under 340 yards that are drivable, But it would be those 6 holes where the North becomes the more straightforward test. We see that fact highlighted by 63% of all birdies or better occurring during those specific stops at the North. So for me, that increases par 5 birdie or better percentage. I placed 20% on that since golfers will need to score on each one of those chances that they get. I did 15% on a weighted proximity of 150 yards plus. If you know me, you know that I love to redistribute the proximity totals on my end to mimic the property's exact specifications. Strokes gained data in any category is only as valuable as the connection it can draw to the course and the golfers that are playing it. But I decided to amplify the percentages to simulate a venue that only had iron play coming from 150 yards and beyond. The reason for that comes down to 2 core reasons for it. For starters, 66.1% of approaches will take place from that distance. But more importantly, it's where a lot of the important shots are going to come from. If you need to make par on the longer par 3s or 4s, hit a good long iron shot. If you want to make birdie or better on the par 5s, you get it, hit a good long iron shot. It's a lot of things over and over again with that. I did 15% on ball striking. That's a recalculated metric I made that takes 75% driving distance and combined it with 25% accuracy. I then took 70% of that total and mixed it with 30% of greens in regulation to get that. 15% weighted short game, 3-putt percentage, strokes gained around the green, sand safe percentage into that. Long par 3s and long par 4s. That is what I'm talking about, of just the longer holes there. I put 10% onto that. Strokes gained total on difficult to long courses for 10%. That's pretty self-explanatory. If nothing else is certain, you can't fake the yardage on the scorecard. And then a combined POA stat for 15%. I merged strokes gained total on POA and strokes gained putting on POA to get my new projection. I like that assortment because it highlighted a comprehensive array of the surface and not just a total aspect where bad putters got away with no repercussion to their total.
Wow. So if I got that right, what I heard was good golfers that hit it far.
That's a good start.
And around the green.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right. I like it. Well, now we're all prepared. I think couldn't have broken that down any better. That's a lot of people. You're probably gonna have to watch that back and just take some notes so you could digest it all. But we're gonna have some fun tonight. So we're gonna take that information we just learned, and instead of just going down like we normally do to each kind of range and going through who we like in each range and talking through it, we're gonna have tonight's show go a little differently. What we're gonna do is we're gonna have a draft, and that is correct. I don't know, these guys missed it. They don't know if they realize I am the draft master, so I don't know why they'd want to do that themselves. However, here we are. We're gonna have a 4-man draft. Regular DraftKings rules apply. So we're gonna do a 6-man roster. Has to stay within salary with each person, within your total salary of your top squad. And we're going to draft as if we were entering into a GPP. So we're going to try not just to take all the highest owned players. We're going to give you our rationale behind each draft pick. This is going to be a snake draft. So we'll go back and forth like you would in most fair drafts. Anything I'm missing?
I don't think so. We just have to determine the draft order. How do you guys want to do that?
So I think the draft order is going to be done just as you see us on screen. It'll make it easier just to go through. So we'll go with Sia first. Congratulations on winning the first spot in the draft.
This is so rigged. This is so absolutely rigged right now.
Yes, Ben, you're not in good shape here. I'm going to go second. Maniac's going to go third. Spence, you're going to go fourth.
I'm having flashbacks of when the Jets beat the Rams to lose the number 1 pick last year. But anyway, we'll
I'm impressed you can remember a Jet win. There's not a lot of those.
Well, that's why it's so easy.
And usually I want to forget the wins because they mess us up. But anyway.
That's fair. I'll give you that one. All right. So the first things first is because we are staying within salary, it's not like we're going to just draft all the top players. So we are drafting based on value, right? If you really like somebody in the 7K range, they could be your first pick. That's totally fair. Mm-hmm. And so keep that in mind as we go through the draft. That we're picking guys we like based on value. If a guy's a good price in the lower tier, that's why they might get taken high. We do have to stay within budget to complete the draft. So with that being said, Sia, congratulations. You have won the first pick. And as the commissioner of this draft, you are officially on the clock.
So I know what you just said. It's a GPP. We don't necessarily want to take popular players, but I get the first pick. So I feel like I'm kind of getting like the Christian McCaffrey or the Derrick Henry of this draft. And I'm just going to go ahead and scoop it up, even though he's going to be the highest owned golfer. Of course, I'm talking about Hank Leviota. So no, I'm kidding. We're gonna go with John Rahm at 11,200. I'll make up for the salary spike somewhere else, but I think he's going to win. I think most people think he's going to win just from a probability standpoint, and I love where his game is at, and I'll take John Rahm.
Yeah, I guess you don't have to give too much of an explanation by taking John Rahm. It's the guy's.
I mean, he's pretty much number one in everything, but like just to be more specific, last 50 rounds, if you want to go back that far, I know Spencer goes back further. Some people go back 24, maybe 36. Let's see. He's number one in ball striking, strokes gained par 5. Obviously the number one rank. He's number 2 off the tee, number 3 birdie or better gained, number 2 proximity 200 plus, and 175 to 200. He's 17th. There's not a lot he doesn't do really, really well. The around the green game could use a little work, but I think that as far as the elite players, he's certainly somewhere in a good hemisphere for being good there.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's obviously a great pick. I would have taken Rahm with the first pick as well. Now that I don't get to take Rahm, it makes it a little challenging because I'm not going to take Thomas, or I don't think I'm going to take anyone else in the top range. That's not where I'm looking here. I am going to dive down. I'm not going to go too low. I still want to get an elite golfer, right, with my first pick. So I'm going to start off with Tony Finau. Listen, one, I love Tony Finau, so I play him a lot. But this is a really good course fit for him. He tends to play really well here. And if I can get him at 9,100, I value Tony, behind Rahm, but everyone else, I think he's pretty close. I think he can compete with anyone else in this field after Rahm. So the fact that I'm getting a good amount of savings with him as well, considering he's in the bottom of the 9K range, feels like a pretty good value pick. The negative to him for me here is the fact that you're eating a lot of ownership. He looks like he is pretty high owned, over 20%, which I don't love. But I'm going to make that pick anyway.
All right.
Byron?
All right, boys. So off the top rope, we're coming in with the third pick of the PGA DFS draft, and it's Bryson De Chamber.
Mm-hmm.
The big old boy, the burly man, the Hulk of the golf world, 9,900 smacks. I think he's going to be a lot lower owned than a lot of people. The first thing that comes to mind when I think of Bryson is the US Open, and the fact that at one point he was in extreme contention to win the damn thing, and then within the space of a single hole was completely out of contention to do so. And that is the only thing that I think is keeping a lot of people from wanting to go to the man. It's around the green game. Obviously that is a bit of a problem. But we've seen that he makes that all up quite quickly when he goes off the tee. I mean, he's at this golf course, like Spencer was saying, you're going to be playing the longest course, one of the longest courses on tour, 3 times, hopefully. And Bryson is just a beef. And he just hits it so far. And I think a lot of things about his game go underappreciated, like his putting and his long irons are so critical to the success at a course like this, where he can be the guy that's making an eagle. Doing DFS, you need points. So he's the kind of guy that can really attack some pins on the par 5s, I think, with his length off the tee and with his being able to hit irons into these greens when a lot of these guys are going to be hitting woods. So I like Bryson in that position. Gives you a lot of upside, nice and cheap for what he can give you. Very risky, though. I'm not going to lie. That is a bit of a concern for me, but it's a GPP, so why not go big, right? So
I like it.
I like the pick as well. Spencer, you're on the clock.
Well, I want to stress my displeasure with this draft once again with the 4th spot of it. And if I would have had the number 1 pick, it would have been between 2 guys. One of them has not been picked yet. The other one would have been DeChambeau. I agree with the Model Maniac on this. I think in a GPP situation, if we're trying to win, a 10% ownership under $10,000 is a really good position for him, and I think it's worth a shot. For me, I'm going to go a little bit different just with the way that the board has played out. There is an Australian that I really want to take.
Oh, here we go.
It's not going to be him right now, though. I will take Mark Leishman with my first pick. And one of the reasons why I like Leishman, he grew up on that Kikuyu grass. It's something that we've seen him find success here in the past. I think he's one of the best players in this field when looking for overall upside and safety. He has a bunch of top tens here. He has his victory a couple years ago. So I think Leishman is a good place to start. And you guys, I mean, I guess Joel and I will kind of be in the same spot with roster construction right now, going with it. But for my second pick, I will take, let me try to strategically do this. I will take Maverick McNeely at 8,200. I think there's probably a small underpricing on him, which might increase his ownership, but I think 8,200 is a really good price. He's been one of the steadier golfers on tour over the last handful of months. He's posted 14 made cuts in his last 15, and POA and California are always two things I want for him. So I'm fine eating the ownership with him. I think he's a guy that I want to get into a lot of my builds if I can, and I think $8,200 is a very good price for him.
I like it. I think that definitely makes sense. All right,
and he's the kind of guy that's showed up kind of recently. It's a sneaky pick. Someone that's watched a lot of golf myself, and I mean we stare at these numbers all the time. I saw Maverick pop up on my model. I'm like, oh my, I haven't seen you coming. Anyway, but with the sixth pick of the draft, I will be going with Samuel Burns at a casual $9,700 and a hefty, roughly 20% ownership. But it's going to be one of my few that I eat the chalk on a little bit there. There's just so much to love about the man. I see a lot of single-digit numbers on my screen here when looking at rankings in all the different respective categories that we're looking to excel in on this golf course. His recent form is phenomenal. I mean, talk about a guy that just wants to just play fantastic golf all the time. His approach games are great, and I think he's still looking for that signature win. And this could be one of those events, right? He's won some tournaments, quite a few, but it hasn't been against the boys. He hasn't done it on a big stage. I think he's looking like the kind of guy that I want to have my money on when the stakes get high, and especially with that little bit of an easier course that we sneak in once. I think he can tear that bad boy up. He's a birdie making machine, so I think he's going to do a lot of his damage on the North course. I have him as a first round leader out there. So Sam Burns is going to be my guy in the second round for me.
Well, Model Mania, you mentioned you have him as a first round leader. Let's not tease. That's coming. We still have a whole section of giving out the first round leader. So I'm going to keep that in mind before we get to the end of the show.
I've got a few more for you. Don't worry about it.
That's a good pick. For me, I thought about this one. I do want to make sure I'm thinking through my average remaining salary, making sure I'm rostering it. I want to be a little bit more balanced this week for me, especially if I'm not going to get Rom. Then I'm going to have to be a little bit more balanced. So I'm going to go with Darth Vader's son, Luke List.
Okay. So I have two picks coming up, and I know I'm chalky with the first one. I was actually going to take Luke List, and then I'm going contrarian the rest of the way. So anyway, I interrupted you. Any particular reason there? I mean, we know how good of a ball striker he is, and go ahead though.
The ball striking, obviously the big one. He does have a lot of success here, and especially for him, right? Like he averages better than his average finish here. Last year is tied for 10th. But even in the last 4 years, he's tied for 36, tied for 40, and tied for 12th. So he does like this course. In addition to that, his recent form is above, his normal, right? Like he's been playing well. And I know it's been a while. There's been a break, but I tied for 22nd at the Amex. And then, before that, he has 3 top 12s out of his last 4. So the current form for Luke List, or the most recent form, is just above his normal. And now he's getting to play a course where he usually does better than normal. I think a lot of stars are aligning for him. The really only negative I'm looking at with him right now is the ownership, right? I don't love playing 20% on a Luke List, but for the draft style, the way we're playing it, I think he makes sense in this pick.
Okay. So here's the thing. I was going to take a certain somebody that's probably going to get taken in the third round. But there's a guy so Rahm is number 1 in my model. And believe it or not, this guy's number 2 in my model. And I'm not like one of those guys that's like, well, my model tells the story and I'm just going to follow it blindly. Like I try to mix it up a little bit, but I think this guy's going to go a little under owned. I'm looking at ownership projections now. Actually, he has some ownership on him. It's not super high, but it's relatively high. I'll just go ahead and say it. It's Sung Jae Im. Again, I'm not really a Sung Jae guy. The proximities are pretty good for him in terms of those longer irons. Off the tee is good. Birdie or better gain, ball striking, number 12 in my model. Around the green is very good. He's in the top 15 there. And again, we think that's going to be important. Approach game could be better, long term, but I kind of like where his game is at. So I've got a lot of cost cutting to do with Rahm and a 9,300 guy. And it looks like my average remaining is 7,375. I'm going to take a guy that's right there. That's like literally right at that range that probably nobody has their eye on right now. I like his upside. I like where his game may be trending right now. And I could be wrong. Maybe it's not an actual trend. Maybe it's just a blip on the radar. It's Keith Mitchell, a guy that can bomb it for one, and a guy who is, or has been dicey on approach and with the putter. But lately, over the last few tournaments, it seems like that's turned around a little bit. And if I'm right that it's a trend and not a blip on the radar, at 7,400, I think I'm getting upside with value there. I mean, I know that's kind of saying the same thing, but I think it's the type of value that has top 10 equity potentially, if the game is where I think it might be. So I'll go ahead and take Keith Mitchell there at 7,400.
It's a good pick. I like Keith Mitchell. That's an interesting one. Wasn't on my radar, but I like the pick. All right, so it puts me back on the clock. Now there's pressure. I'm looking through my names. I really got to commit to one. And all right, I think I'm going to do it. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead with my next pick. I'm going to go with Ryan Palmer at 8,100. Mm-hmm. So I know the concern with my roster right now is this ownership is high. And this is a very big concern of mine for GPP.
You're going to have 300% ownership.
I'm going to make this right in my next 3 picks. I promise you that. But other than that, listen, I'm going back to, again, I'm being very balanced at 8,100. This is a guy who clearly likes this course, right? He's 3 top 15s and a top 20, tied for 21 in his last 4 outings. At the Sony Open, he gave us a tie for 12th, which for there is not like, spectacular, but it's good. It's good. He's competing. And we know he's got a lot of upside. And obviously for a GPP, that's what we're looking for. We want the upside. He can get you that top 5. So that's where I'm going to go here. I'm going to go with Palmer. I'm going to figure out how to get different for the rest of the draft.
And his long irons are some of the best in the business in this field. And I think that's, a lot of the reason for his success at this course, because I couldn't believe when I saw like a pink 3 in my model. I'm like, whoa, like Ryan Palmer's that good of a ball striker with these long irons. So I like it. I like it a lot. And it sounds like you guys are just kind of flying by the seat of your pants. As a guest, I did my homework, and I have a lineup here that is it's going perfectly according to plan right now.
Oh wow, we're in trouble.
So yeah, I think I got $100 left over if everything goes according to the way I'd like it. And this next person, yes.
Can I guess your next pick? Actually, no, I can't, because then I'll be tipping something off. So go ahead, and I'll tell you.
Feel free. I'll give you some clues though. He comes in on the 20th ranked in my model, and he's 5% owned at $7,600. And so I've kind of gone with a lot of upside with the first 2 picks. And then I think I'm going for a little bit more security with a bit of upside here. And I'm looking for golfers that are just super well-rounded. He's a really good approach player. His short game putting, bogey avoidance, just the whole shebang. Anything you're looking for from safety, this guy's it. He's a bit of a cringe factory when it comes to watching him, but I'm going with Cameron Tringali as my 3rd pick. He's just super safe, I feel like. I think he T18'd here last year. He likes tougher courses too. You can get up and down quite easily. And he's nice and cheap. So I think he's going a little unwanted and unloved. So I'll give him some love.
I like it.
I love it.
All right. So we got 2 picks for Spencer. What do you got?
So I'm going to run a risk here with what I'm going to do, because the person I'm going to take second, I realize that I could wait longer and probably get him, but well, I think it'll be obvious which way I'm going. With the first pick, I'm going to take Taylor Gooch. I'm not worried about the miscut last week. He grades as the 6th best player in my model. 10th in short game. He's 23rd in par 5 birdie or better percentage. 3rd in that metric of the par 3 and par 4 scoring. I think at 12.5%, he's a guy that I've been watching a lot of sharp money come in on him in the markets. I'll throw it out there. I have a bet on Taylor Gooch over Corey Connors. That can be found at all legal sports books. I think that it's on DraftKings, but it's also on Bet Online, which is the site I recommended it for. So Taylor Gooch will be the first name. And then maybe I won't go the way I was going to go with it.
Come on, Spence, do it.
I'm trying to look at what everybody has left.
While you're thinking about it, Charlie has a comment here. We appreciate it. This might be the best pre-tourney format show I have seen. This is fantastic. Great job, guys. So I guess we maybe we should do this a little bit more often. Maybe not for every show, but I do think, again, Spencer, while you're thinking, I do think the way people make their DraftKings lineups is interesting. I mean, I think it's always everybody might have a different strategy. Do you plug in, your most expensive guy first, or do you go from salary low to high and just try to see where you can go low to create some money upstairs? Like I don't know. I don't know if anybody has I don't think there's really anything to that in terms of your final roster makeup, but. For example, Keith Mitchell, I obviously didn't need to take him there, but I was trying to create some salary real quick so that I'm not dead in the water looking at the 6K range with 3 picks left. So that's why I did that. So Spencer, to your point, maybe you can wait on this next pick and maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know.
I am going to wait. I've made the decision. I don't think you guys can cram the player in that I'm going to get. So I'm going to go to the bottom of the board. Not that I expect anybody to be on this guy. But I am going to take Sepp Straka at 6,300. And I don't love the $6,000 range in general, but he is one of the guys that I think is in play. We've seen the ball striking look good the last couple of weeks. He has 2 made cuts in a row with that. Good course history at this tournament, 32nd in 2021, 13th in 2019. He's inside the top 45 in all iterations of my model with the way I ran it. So that's going to be my way to open up some salary. I think in general, you don't want to be in the 6,000s this week. Unfortunately, my plans kind of got thrown in the other direction when Charlie Hoffman withdrew from this tournament. He was going to be my first pick I was going to make and try to build a lineup through him. But there's enough guys that I like in the 7,000s that I think I can wait there. And then I don't think anybody can move up and take the guy at the top that I want. So Sepp Straka for me at 6,300.
All right. I might go the same route with opening up some salary with my next pick. So we'll have to wait and see. But where are we at? So we're on Byron for his 4th pick.
So just getting back to how you construct your rosters. Yeah, that's something I constantly grapple with myself. And when I'm just looking at the Data Golf website and you see the names that have won this tournament, right? It's Justin Rose, it's Patrick Reed, it's John Rahm. Those are pedigree, thoroughbred horses, so that's something that I kind of try to get into my brain before doing this tonight and just say, okay, I think I'm going to go for some solid guys in the middle of the ranges. I want guys that I think if you see them win the tournament, you're not going to be surprised, right? So that being said, the 4th golfer I'm taking, $7,500, under 10% ownership, and a man of 2 tails with.
This better not be who I think it is. I'm exiting the show.
I think it might be, but maybe not. We'll see. But riding in on his broomstick putter, it is Aaron Wise.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's a good pick. I like it, but no, that's not who it is.
I'm not sure who your 2-tail person is, but Aaron's just had a complete makeover of his entire game. Like Spence, I run my model's a little 2021 data and some 2022 stuff. So looking at his numbers, you don't quite see Aaron Wise doing much, but then you take a look at his last 24 and his last few rounds, and my God, he's just crisp across the board. Putting is probably one of his weaknesses, and it's not even really a weakness. It's just kind of mediocre. And and just everything else about his game. We'll see how he fares on a tough course like this. But I think like if something goes wrong with his game, he's got a lot of other stuff to lean on. So Aaron Wise.
I like that pick.
Yeah, it's a good pick. And I'm actually going to take a page out of your book with the upside, right? That's what we're here for. We need guys that can get us in the top 10, 20, right? GPP tournament. So that's where the angle I'm taking here. You're going to laugh at me because I'm not doing myself a ton of favorites with the ownership side again. But I still have 2 more picks to do that. So forget about the ownership for now. I'm going to go with Patrick Rogers at 7,100. Now, he's only at about 10% ownership, so it's not as terrible, but it's not great. But that's about, acceptable for this price range. But the reasons for picking Rogers, it's really an upside player. He can miss the cut, but he has 2 top 10s here in the last 5 years. And it's also, even though last week at the Amex he was 40th, he did really well striking the ball. He was getting 2 strokes in the field on approach. He was good around the green. He wasn't great off the tee, which is usually a strength of his. So I think that's something he gets adjusted for this week. He hits it well off the tee. If he continues to strike the ball well, he could certainly compete in this tournament. So at 7,100, that does leave me with a lot of salary for my remaining spots where I have to get low ownership, but I have the salary.
That's strong. I like the upside play. I mean, I honestly, Keith Mitchell was sort of like my Patrick Rogers, just playing the upside. Obviously, Patrick Rogers has proven it a little bit more here. But all right, I got 2 picks here. So I'm going to go with the guy that I was really big on last week. He kind of let me down. He made the cut, but he still kind of let me down. And, one of my things this year in particular, I used to preach this, last year and the year before, but I don't know that I actually practiced what I preached. And it was not being off of a guy just because he was a little unimpressive the week before. Like if your sample size is just 2 or 4 rounds, when you liked the guy a day earlier, his game probably didn't completely fall apart, over the weekend. That's just not how it works. So I think you kind of have to train yourself to be like, all right, I liked him last week. I like him this week. And I do think this guy has win equity because he's actually won here before. And actually, outside of his latest turn here, which was a missed cut, his 3 prior to that were 1st, 8th, and 4th. And it's Justin Rose. So I was on him last week. I was heavy on him. And I don't know that I'm going to be heavy on him this week, but I'm definitely going to be playing I'm going to be playing him in a good amount of lineups. So what does that leave me, Joel?
7,100 per spot.
Okay. So here's what I have to do. I have to go pretty small here because there's a guy at 6,900 that I actually really like that I also played last week. Hint, it was the secret weapon last week. But I'm not going to play him because I want to free up a little bit more salary. So I'm going to go all the way down to to Spencer's range at 6,300 is where Sepp Strack was. I'm actually going to go to 6,400. It's a guy who's gained ball striking 14 out of his last 15 events. Okay, at 6,400. His around the green game and putting, he can kind of go up and down, but it's actually more impressive than you think when you look at the numbers. For whatever reason, his finishing positions just aren't really that impressive. So I think the upside is definitely limited, but I can't ignore at 6,400 both the ball striking and the short game, which is pretty good. And by the way, he's top 20 in my model somehow. It's Jason Duffner at 6,400. Give me some of that. Free up some salary. Stars and scrubs. Let's go.
Some pedigree there as well, right? He's won a few tournaments in his day.
Sure has.
Yeah, that's a really good pick. And I feel like he's also has some safety to him. And he's someone who usually competes. Like even at that price, he'll compete. So that's a really good. That's an interesting pick there. See it? And now I'm in an interesting. Well, wait a minute. Yeah. So I'm in an interesting predicament because if I'm playing kind of game strategy, it looks like the only person that I have to worry about here is Spence. So I got to think about who does Spencer like because we're going to compete over somebody. There's a guy I want to take that I don't think Spencer will take. So I'm going to see if I can try and save him for my next pick. The issue with that is the next guy left that I want to go for is you're going to laugh at me because of the ownership. But I guess that's where I'm stuck.
Hey, Joel, so
I think
here's
you're
the
playing
thing,
a cash game right now.
Yeah.
No, hold on. But here's the thing. This will be interesting because I think I don't think we need to necessarily enter these lineups in the same tournament. We could if we wanted to, but let's enter these tournaments and see, like in GPPs, and see how chalky they actually end up being. I mean, we know what the ownership percentages are likely to be, but let's just see if there's duplicates, if you end up passing people because you end up having, at least one or two, not super chalky guys. I think it'll be an interesting case study.
Sold. So I'm in, and we'll see how it goes. And when my super chalky lineup wins the tournament, then I'm going to report back and let you know that, because that's what's going to happen as I go ahead and select Will Zalatoris.
I actually love that pick. I had him a bit. I was big on him last week as well.
I'll be honest with you. A big part of it is I already know who I'm taking with my last pick, and I knew we're at the salary range. So it is a salary fitter. But, when you're doing a salary fitting pick and it's in the 9,000 range, it's a little different than when you're like deep diving into the 6K range for trying to make somebody work. So, listen, Will Zalatoris has he doesn't really have a huge weakness other than putting. He's a great ball striker. Even last week he struck the ball. I think he gained almost 4 strokes on the field. He has gained strokes off the tee, and I don't know how many last tournaments that they could actually measure it on. So if he can go out there this week and just make a few putts, I have confidence he's going to compete.
Are you guys surprised he's got the ownership he does? Because honestly, I know he had a great week last week, but I didn't expect him to be like in the top 5 or 6 from an ownership projection. It looks like that's where he's at. I'm just a little surprised.
He's also the number 1 or number 2 liability at a lot of sports books for outright bets. So that was a little surprising also.
Interesting. All right.
He's an incredible pick because, I mean, when he's putting, it's just I have to be on the couch sitting because it's scary. I'm going to lose my balance just watching him putt sometimes because it's janky. But anyway, I love him. I have a top 20 on him. So, all right, my turn, 5th pick.
That's right.
Let's go with. I think I'm going to go with Hayden Buckley as my 5th pick here. $6,900. He's a Corn Ferry guy I was big on last week, and a lot of the Corn Ferry guys let us down on Sunday, but he didn't let me down on Sunday. He let me down Thursday through Friday, Saturday. So anyway, but what we've seen from him so far is really nice. I think me and Spencer had this discussion on Twitter. It was like, his metrics are beautiful. He seems like a very well-rounded golfer. Lots of upside on a lot of his aspects of his game. Really good ball striker. Last week was the first time he actually lost strokes on approach. When you look at data golf, since he's been on the tour, and he's $6,900, low owned, and he can hit. A lot of these Corn Ferry guys come out just crunching it. They hit it a long way. So. He hits it far. I like that about him, and he's unknown. Maybe he pops up. I don't know if he's going to win the damn thing, but I know he's going to, if he plays well, and I think he's going to be hungry to do so after a bad week last week. He's going to come in hot. So,
yeah, I love Hayden Buckley.
Me too. There's a lot of guys to like. From that Corn Ferry tour it's a pressure cooker. It cooks some good meats there. So
yeah, Buckley and Taylor Moore. We discussed this, but those two, Chad Ramey, Davis Riley, there's a lot of really good players. Sahith Theegala continues to give big results every week.
And I just have to mention, while you bring up Theegala, I saw the best story about him this week on the internet, which I didn't know, and I'm just gonna say it real quick before we move on. Did you guys know that who his new caddy is?
No.
So it's his girlfriend, because he went into her DMs and was like, "Hey, do you want to carry my bag?" She knows nothing about golf, and she was like, "Sure." And so he's 19-year-old kid was like, "This hot girl, I kind of want her to date her." She was like, "Sure." So now she travels the world with him, and she's his girlfriend and carries his clubs. It's not like a real caddy, and like he just won a Corn Ferry Tour tournament. That was kind of like explaining. She's there, like holding the trophy. Was
wait. You're doing the thing.
Yeah.
It's Akshay Bhatia. Not Sahith Theegala. This guy.
You do know the story.
I was like, not another. He
Okay.
got his girlfriend to caddy for him after Akshay did that.
I thought he copied.
That's like, whoa.
No, I knew I must have been just saying something wrong when no one knew the story. I was like, come on, there's too many golf fans for no one to know what I'm talking about. So that makes sense.
All the Indian golfers do the same thing.
Very racist.
Speaking of Sahith, We have invited him on the show. He responded to our invite, kind of, if you guys remember. So let's just say it again, Sahith. We'd like you to come onto the show and talk to us because we think you're awesome. And more importantly, you should want to come on because all four of us know how to pronounce your name. And nobody else does. Literally nobody. Sahith, come on to the show, please. We'll talk about anything you want, including golf if you want. Anyway, where are we at?
Well, I will
Spencer.
take us with our next two picks here. And, I've been trying to update everybody's picks into the spreadsheet, and I've been trying to do things. So, I'm trying to do mental math as I'm doing this. So I didn't have a game plan like the Model Maniac did with this. I'm kind of winging this a little bit right now, but with my next pick, and this wasn't planned, I promise this wasn't something that I was planning on doing this week, but if it's going to land directly on the number. So my first pick I'm going to make is Xander Schauffele. And let me put it in and make sure that, so it leaves me $7,500 with that. But, Xander had a terrible start to his career at Torrey Pines. We've seen in the last couple of years. If you take the U.S. Open and throw it into it, there's been 3 top 25 finishes from him at this course over his last 4 attempts. And if it wasn't De Chamber, I would have taken number 1. It probably would have been Xander. So those were the 2 guys I was eyeing. So once I realized the way that everybody was making their picks, I figured I could get Xander at the end. Now, here's the problem with it. So I think there's 4 guys that are in play and really 3 guys that are in play. I like Matt Jones. I really like Cameron Davis this week at $7,300. Nick and I on the Better Golf Pod, that's one of our favorite top 40 plays of the week. I like Windham Clark. That's another play that I think when you look at Windham Clark's game, he had not gained with his irons in so long. He had lost in 12 of 16 tournaments, and then 4 of his last 6 he's gained with his irons. So he is one of only 2 players in this tournament. De Chamber would be the other one that ranks inside the top 10 in driving distance and strokes gained putting on POA. That could be an interesting combination if he's figured something out, but I'm going to do it just for the hilarity at this point. Jason Day, $7,500. It was going to have to bound to happen at some point. I actually think he looked somewhat decent last week. I'm worried about the par 5 scoring, but you're going to put it right on the number that I have left. Give me Jason Day and we'll roll with him on this lineup. And I do think that when we look at his course history, I mean, he's a 2-time winner here since 2015. If he is able to figure something out, I think this is the spot where it's going to start coming into tune for him.
Yeah. All right. No surprise there.
And, noticing, because, when you see some people like Sticks and yourself, Spencer, put out some, you have your favorite players. And I was watching Chan Kim quite closely last week. And but when I was watching Day, he hit it into a lot of water, it seemed, like he had some penalty shots and things like that. I think there's a little less of that kind of nonsense at this course, which I think he can use his short game to his advantage. So anyway. All right. Well, seems though we spoke about him to start off the show at $8,300. Christian Bezuidenhout comes in at a whopping 3% ownership, and with an off the tee game that's a bit of a suspect, when it comes to distance, but he's always in the fairway. It seems accuracy is a key component of his driving, and if things get dirty out there and the conditions get tough for some unforsaken reason, he's one of the best short game specialists on this field. He's putting, his around the green game is exceptional, and he's super low owned. And I think his par 5 scoring for a guy that doesn't actually hit it as far as he does, he's inside the top 30 in my model. And with 4 of them on the course, I think he's going to, he's not going to be hitting it close to the green, but his wedges are quite phenomenal. So we'll see what he can do there. I think he's just going to hang around another safe play kind of thing and super low ownership. And if his putter gets hot, who knows what can happen, and I wouldn't be surprised if he won this thing because I'm a big fan. So let's see what he does.
I like that pick. I think
it leaves me with $100. Sorry.
He's a solid value at that price for sure. So I like that pick a lot. And you must know something since you know him. So obviously he's got something going.
And so just to clarify, if you go and ask him, he might know who I am. Obviously, I know who he is, but I don't know if he's going to say, "Oh yeah, Byron," but I definitely know he'll know who my sister was. So we'll just leave it at
It's a
that.
good thing you clarified that because I was going to ask him tomorrow.
Yeah, me
Now
too.
that you,
Yeah, feel
Me too.
free.
Just preface it as the guy that used to kick his ass back in the day.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure he'll remember at that point.
Oh, it's good. All right. Well, if it's not obvious, no, it is. Everyone knows who I'm taking. I am writing the ownership ship here by not taking someone who I own. It's going to get sub 10% ownership. So I'm writing that. But obviously, I take him every week. I always play Patrick Reed, Captain America. At 8,700, the defending champion of this tournament. Obviously, there have been major concerns with Patrick Reed's form. But I think he is starting to take a turn. He wasn't gaining strokes, really ball striking last week, but he improved. And it wasn't really that negative. And where Patrick Reed is going to win is around the green and with his putting, and that was really solid. So I think we're seeing a lot of the good from Patrick Reed again. If he does have a week with some improved off the tee, some ball striking a little bit, and the putter remains hot like it was last week, I think he can compete again. And the last with Reed is he likes this spot. I mean, he's been pretty consistently competitive in this tournament. Not only is he a defending champion, tied for 6th in 2020, tied for 13th before that, and then tied for 23. So he's consistently competing, and at 8,700, even if he gets me in the teens, right? That's enough if I can get the rest of my lineup to come through. So Patrick Reed, and that is my balanced lineup.
All right, Patrick Reed. Worst pick of the draft right there. So thank you, Joel. I know, I'm just kidding. I'm not. I'm kidding. Okay, so I'm not super comfortable with this range, but I think there's a lot of guys in that mid 7K range. A lot of them that have already been selected up to like the 8,100, 8,200 range where you can go. I'm going to go with a guy that I'm not super comfortable with, but I do like the ball striking as of late, and I love the finishing positions as of late. I believe he's made 6 out of 7 cuts, which isn't like incredibly impressive. But when you look at what he's done over the last like 4 cuts that he's made, like 3 of those have been in the top 10. So clearly he has some upside. It's Lanto Griffin at 7,700. The around the green game could certainly catch up to him. He's certainly, not an expert there. That's definitely the worst part of his game. But I do like the ball striking in general, particularly off the tee has really improved lately. Approach game has been solid for quite some time. And the putter can pop. I mean, that's what we're looking for here a little bit, putters that can pop. And I'm looking at over the last like 7 or 8 tournaments, there's been instances where he's gained 3.5 strokes, 5.64 strokes, 4.18, 3. So I like the all-around game there. I think that's pretty good value because I think he could end up somewhere in the top 10. So round out my lineup with a Lanto from Virginia Commonwealth University.
Is that true?
I went to school in the Richmond area, so I feel like I'm obliged to say that, VCU.
And he too also has a girlfriend in the DMs on his back this week.
Is that true?
I was totally sold.
Good stuff, guys. Well, that's it. That's a wrap. That is the first inaugural Farmers Insurance Open DFS draft. And man, you guys did a good job not beating me. But man, second place is going to look good for one of you.
So everybody who's watching, please take a screenshot of this so you can kind of track this with us, and we'll post this on Twitter at some point, and hopefully throughout the tournament we can kind of track it one way or the other. I'm definitely entering this into a contest. We could do it in a 4-man contest too. We could create one, but I definitely want to enter it into like a larger GPP.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we could all pick the same one, like a $3 or $5 or $8 one, and just kind of see what happens. But yeah, this was fun. Great idea. Whoever came up with Joel or Spencer.
Joel, yeah, Joel's idea was a good idea.
And I must admit, like coming onto the show, I had a little bit of nerves. Like got some guys I have some starstruck issues with. But when you turn it into the draft whole thing, it was it's just all 3 of y'all.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But when you turn into the draft, it was like, oh yeah. I've done this before. We can have some fun. So thank you for doing that too, Joel. Appreciate that.
Model Maniac, first of all, we're not done with you. So before I thank you, which I'm going to do soon, I still have more to get out of you because while we gave you guys the draft, and now you guys, everyone who listens to this show is well equipped to go take down DraftKings for everything that they have. In the meantime, thank you, Steve, for highlighting that. Feel free. Let us know what team you like most. You can comment down there. Just in case you're not sure, you can spell my name Joel's team. That's how you spell it when you want to put that post in. But yeah, let us know whose team you like most. But before we move on, we still have some outrights, some first-round leaders. So let's move over to that side of the card. And we'll start in the outright market like we always do. Spence, do you want to kick us off? What outrights are you looking at this week?
Yeah, I don't have very much exposure to this market in general this week. I heavily considered Bryson De Chamber at 22-1. That bet has not been placed yet. I'll see what ends up happening with that. I don't think I'm going to go there, but Mark Leishman at 40-1, Max Homa 70-1, Matthew Wolf 70-1. And I realize that most of the people that win this tournament, they're 50-1 golfers or better. I think Homa and Wolf are two guys that you can take a shot on. They're good par 5 scorers. They're guys that are going to fit this course well. And I did throw a dart on Windham Clark at 190-1. There's probably better ways to play him than an outright ticket. But if the approach game does turn around, I think he can make more of a run at this tournament than some people think.
I like it. I think that definitely makes sense. Maniac, how about you? Who are you looking at in the outright market?
Yeah, I have a similar approach to Spence as just when anytime John Rahm's in the field, I don't feel confident in anybody that I place a bet on for an outright. So I kind of went with Bryson because I just think of like, who's my alpha dog that if he lands up in the final pairing with Rahm on a Sunday, can he stick with him? Is he going to get, shell shocked or what's going on? Bryson 22-1, upsides there. He plays his best. He's going to win this thing. Aaron Wise at 100-1, just a big number. I liked it. Nice little sprinkle. And then Justin Rose, I found an 80. And when Sia picked him, I have him in my second tier of backup plans for DraftKings. And he's won it before, and his game is trending. A lot of the guys coming out of the pandemic, I think, had some issues and things like that, especially not the Americans. His recent form's looking real nice. So
I'm with you. I like it. Those are good picks. For me, I just have a couple. I don't think this is the best tournament to bet outrights. I know Sia says this a lot, and I agree. This tournament especially is probably a good one to wait till Saturday or Friday night and then make your picks, because maybe you want to take someone to make a comeback in the top 20. You can still get decent odds. So I will probably be putting another bet in over the weekend. For now, my long shot, my home run that I'm going for is going to be none other than one of my own draft picks, Patrick Rogers at 150-1. And then in the more back down to reality picks of guys that I think can actually win the tournament. Again, I'm going to go back to my squad. I think I have confidence in my guys. I like Ryan Palmer at 60-1, and I like honestly, this wasn't planned. I like Tony Finau at 25.
So you got every outright in your car in your lineup.
Oh yes, I do. See, how about you? Who do you look at in the outright market?
So I'm going to give a couple top 20 and top 40 guys out too, because I think this would be the tournament to maybe speculate there. But the shorter guys, I was considering Hideki and DJ 18-1, 22-1. I don't know if I'm actually going to bet that. And by the way, this tournament starts tomorrow. For those of you listening, just a reminder, because Joel, you mentioned making a bet on Friday or Saturday. Really, Friday, Saturday is Wednesday, Thursday this week. So just kind of keep that in mind. Get your lineups in tonight. Reserve your lineups now if you haven't already. Get into our Discord tonight. There's going to be a lot of chatter later on tonight. But anyway, the longer odds, I have 3 guys. And then I'll just really quick give a few top 20s and a few top 40s that I like. Taylor Gooch at 50-1. I do like Aaron Wise. That number has really fluctuated. So you got it at 100-1. I've seen it at 70. I've seen it as low as 65. I think 65 is probably a little too low. I think if you can get it between 70 and 100, I do think Aaron Wise has win equity. I don't know if he's going to win this tournament, but this is a game that's probably on the ascent. And so you want to recognize that before he actually wins, obviously. And then Lanto Griffin at 80-1. I do think he has a little bit more upside than most people do. So, and the finishing positions lately have proven that. So the only 3 I really are interested in giving out are Gooch at 50-1, Wise at 70 or higher, and Lanto at 80. A few top 20s, Sungjae plus 140, Taylor Gooch plus 180, Lanto plus 275. And then top 40, Luke List at plus 100, I like a lot. Keith Mitchell at plus 120, CT Pan plus 165. And part of Team No Putt, Emiliano Grillo, plus 240. Give me some of that.
Now, is the plus 240 on him just to make a putt, or is that for him?
Make a putt like 7 feet or longer.
Exactly.
That's the plus
Like a putt
240.
win a car.
For the record, I'm going to have Kyle Stanley in at least one lineup because I'm just in love with that guy's ball striking. He's like top 5 in the world. That's like not hyperbole. It's an actual thing. He is literally the worst putter on the PGA Tour. It's unbelievable. And around the green is pretty bad too, but it's unbelievable how bad of a putter and how good of a ball striker this guy is. By the way, Byron, can you explain that? Because you're likely the most advanced golfer in this group. I don't think there's any question about that. How does somebody get that good at ball? I mean, this is a mental thing, right?
Yeah, it has to be. It's probably confidence, or something. There's a cobweb in there that's not shaking loose. But I mean, if you look at Will Zalatoris, it's like that putting stroke is like, how has that not been refined into a smooth rock your shoulders? It's like a jabby, like under pressure. That's whoo, So, and I don't understand, how can you be that bad all the time as well? Like you can go up and down, but it's just nonstop terrible.
So before we get to first round leaders, I have a theory that this tournament is actually good for Team No Putt. And I think Kyle Stanley's proof of that because over his last 4 or 5 times here, he has 2 top 20s. And Kyle Stanley doesn't top 20 anywhere. It just doesn't happen. If he's having a great ball striking day and a terrible putting day, he'll finish like 45th or something around like 60 or something like that. So my point is, if to me, because the greens are so like they can be like kind of choppy, I actually don't necessarily think, and maybe you guys have a different opinion, I don't think that necessarily benefits like the putters that are always good putters. It seems to me, based on like finishing positions that I've seen on this course, that it might actually give some help to some of the guys who just don't putt that well. And that's not a theory that you should put your money on necessarily, but that's a theory that I'm putting my money on this week.
If you're a super elite ball striker, I think that there's something to be said about that. Guys like Hideki and Keegan Bradley have found some success on this course. And I mean, they're players that can't make putts ever.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's interesting. That's a good point. And that's definitely something to factor. I mean, because that is important for those guys. There's our tournaments where those guys that we know will strike it well compete more on. And so finding, where is the right time to actually target them. I think this week being a track like that is, I think it's an interesting factor to loop in.
I just want to add one point to that really quickly. Charlie's wrong, by the way, but if you're
correct.
The other thing you need also is you need to be really good around the green here. I think that, when we look at Hideki, he's very good around the green. A guy like Corey Connors worries me because he's a bad putter and he's bad around the green. So I would look at that before I make a decision. If you want to take Team No Putt guys, make sure that they're good around the green, because if they're going to be bad around the green and not make putts, that's where I think some of the implosions could possibly happen.
Mm-hmm.
So say maybe like Patrick Reed.
All right.
I like Patrick Reed this week. I think he's a fine pick. I mean, this is the perfect course to play him at. Like, he has the skill set where if the putter gets hot and the around the green game gets hot, like, this is how he won. He's never going to be a guy who hits a bunch of fairways, which it could be the downside to it. But if the putter gets hot, and I do think that certain guys just continuously putt well on POA, and Reed is one of those guys.
I love it. Well, Byron, I don't know if you've watched our show or how often you've watched it, but I have to give you a little bit of an education. Okay? And it's a betting education that we're going to give you here. But this is how it works. When Sia gives you a first round leader bet.
Oh
okay.
Yeah.
This isn't a bet that you just bet like, $5, $10, $15 on, because that's not wise. You know why that's not wise? Because when you bet $5, $10, $15 on it, you're still going to have to do the same job you do the next day.
Mm-hmm.
You're still going to have to go to the grocery store and buy groceries, right? All that kind of stuff. When you put the amount of money I'm going to recommend on it, then you have a butler that does those things for you, because that's how you get rich. And you know what? It's a lot. There's no question about it.
Mm-hmm.
Sia's hit the last 15 first-round leaders. It feels like, I don't know exactly, but he hasn't missed in a long time. So if you don't take it, then you're doing yourself a disservice, and you have no one to blame but yourself, because we're giving you winners. And so it's not just, okay, how much money do you have to put on it? Because, yeah, everyone go to their bank account, take all their money, but it's not enough. You take out a mortgage on your home.
Yes. No, I'm laughing
As
because
much as you can.
yes, I'm laughing because it's true. It's the truth is funny to me. That's why I was laughing. It's not a bit at all. But the funny thing is, Joel, so secretly, safe place, no, just us four talking. It's kind of a bit, but the funny thing is, like, I've hit a bunch of outrights in a row, with the exception of last week. Well, I hit the first round leader last week and the first round leader the week before. And then I hit an outright on Cam Smith, I guess that same week and whatever. The point is, like, it's still a bit, but it's like actually hitting. So listen, it may crash and burn, but to Joel's point, I think the recommendation remains the same. Take out a second mortgage, borrow money from your friends, your parents, your loved ones. You don't have to tell them where the money's going because it doesn't matter. You're going to be able to pay them back probably tenfold because of the odds on the first round leader bet that you're going to hit.
Yep. Absolutely. I will be sure to make sure that my wife does not hear that. And but also if she does, then I have ammunition. There's a track record, So
does your wife want to be driving a Lamborghini?
Yeah, she'll be thanking you in 24 hours.
I don't think the Lamborghini would fit over the amount of snow that's on the side of the road right now, but for the summertime, I think I'll make that point to her. I think she'll like it.
You could sell that Zach Wilson jersey. You could well, there's a 2 on top. The price is on the jersey.
$2. He's going to be okay. He's going to be fine. Zach's going to be the guy. He's okay. Anyway, we'll
sound like you're really selling yourself on that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
He just needs to survive the Jets. That's what he needs to survive. That's the team to beat is the Jets. So if he can beat the Jets, we're going to be in a safe place.
All right.
Yes.
So go ahead.
Now, the actual first round leaders, we'll all give some plays. We'll sprinkle in, who we like, who we're looking at. C is going to drop the hammer at the end. Spence, why don't you kick us off? Who are you looking at for first round leader?
Well, when you have an ace in the hole like Sia, that's really going to be the pick that matters here. And full disclosure on this, I was having some internet problems before we started the show. I didn't get to look at the first round leader market. In my opinion, I think Vegas sportsbooks were trying to shut me off the air. They don't want to hear the Jason Day propaganda anymore. They know that I am going to shut them down on the outright bets with that. But if I can, let me go a different route with it and give a couple top 40 plays with it just to have something that I give out to everybody. So FanDuel made a horrible mistake on Max Homa. I can't recommend that one. That was plus 160. That number has since moved. But Windham Clark as a top 40 at plus 240. Cameron Davis plus 165. And Mito Pereira at 2-1, and I guess the other one I'll give also Sepp Straka 3.6-1.
I like that. Those are good. I love the Sepp Straka one. That's a good number for him.
It's a very good number for him. I had that more priced in the 220 zone with that, so there's like 145 points of value there, or 140 points of value there.
I like, and those are to keep in mind. Like, even though you're still getting a number, those are the type of bets where we're not going to put our whole mortgage on it, but those are the ones that you realistically can put, more closer to a unit that can really hit, right? Because it's closer to picking a game than it is picking the winner of the season, which is what the odds are more like for picking outrights and things like that.
Yeah, and the Sepp Straka, I only have a quarter of a unit on him to win 9/10 of a unit. I mean, I think you could go a little bit higher than that, but it doesn't take much to get a real payout out of it.
For sure. That's why I really like that bet. Maniac, how about you? Who are you looking at here?
I love top 40 bets. So I have a few as well. Hank Leviota is plus 400 on FanDuel.
Yes.
I'm a big Hank fan here. Hank fan myself.
Love him.
And once he gets his mental cobwebs out of there, he's gonna be looking fire. But I'm not gonna waste my airtime on the top 40 market, although it's one of my favorite things. My card's out. You can go check it out. But I have a story about my first round leader situation. Okay. These numbers I'm gonna give you are not available. I was laying in bed last night watching MASH, which is a show that my wife's got me on, and it's quite funny. But I'm sitting there and I'm refreshing FanDuel so I can see some top 40 bets come in. They take a while to come through. Next thing I see, first round leaders are out there. It's the full slate. So they've got odds for the full field, not split by course. So I instantly look up, okay, who's playing North Course? And I have myself six guys that I got playing the North Course against the whole field, though. And it's Tony Finau at 37, Sam Burns 37, Daniel Berger 37-1. All for first round leaders playing the North Course. Aaron Wise 75-1.
Wow.
Charlie Hoffman out 81, and then Brand Snedeker 80-1. So I got these guys going up against the entire field, but since then FanDuel took it down like early hours of the morning, and now it's split into the two different courses and the odds are halved. But since Data Golf's been collecting data on this, not a single person from the South Side has been a solo leader on round 1 or round 2 when they've been playing on the different courses. There's only been 1 or 2 guys that sneak in and tie. The rest of the time, it's all just the North Side guys kicking butt. So,
yeah, that's a really good find. And I mean, that's one of the things that I always try to tell people. Just be aware of these markets, and sports books make more mistakes than you would ever imagine them making.
Mm-hmm.
Like a handful of years ago, I was able to get Mark. I don't know how they ended up paying me on it. I was betting $100 on it every single 30 minutes so they wouldn't ban the bet on it. But I had a Mark Leishman ticket at 50-1 to be the low Australian. And that's against Day Scott and 2 amateurs in that tournament. And Leishman ended up being the low amateur there. So the bet ended up coming through. And I was afraid that the sportsbook wasn't going to pay it with it. But you can find scenarios like that where you can get incongruities in the market that aren't meant to be there.
absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah.
And that's the type of stuff where you can catch that on a show. If you can get there on time, that's where you can really get an advantage.
Yeah.
But irrelevant, because after this week, we're bankrupting all the casinos with this first round leader hits up. It's not
That's
a
right.
good point at this point anyway. For me personally, a couple first round leader plays. I like Tom Hogue, who is just basically only plays the first round and then plays like me. So you got to go for the first round leader there at 35-1. I like the models boy, Bez, at 35-1 for a first round leader play. And my final play at 20-1, I like Daniel Berger. Now, Sia, please enlighten us.
Okay, so I have 3 for the North Course, and I actually had 3 for the South Course, but I'm going to add 1 because Byron inspired me. Spoiler alert, it's Hank Leviot at 70-1. He can get hot. Like, he can definitely get hot, especially with the putter. If the ball striking is anywhere close to good, I could absolutely see him being a first round leader on the South Course at the end of round 1. 70-1 is a nice little number there. So that's the kind of the one aside. I'm just hitching my wagon to Byron's there. But let's start with the North Course. We got Justin Rose 28-1, Emiliano Grillo 50-1, team no putt, Jason Duffner 70-1. Do I expect it with Duffner over 4 rounds? No. Could he do it over 1 round? Yeah, maybe. Okay, so the South Course. All right. Joel Dahman at 50-1. I definitely don't think he can do it for 4 rounds, but we've seen him do it for 1, especially in the first round over the years. Kyle Stanley, team no putt, 60-1. I just mentioned Hank Lebiota at 70-1, but here's the one. This is the one, guys. This is the one right after the show. Byron's going to take off that jersey. He's going to put it on whatever, eBay or whatever the kids are using these days. It's probably not eBay.
Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah, Facebook Marketplace, of course. Well, he brought me back because he said MASH, which is like a 40-year-old show. And so like now I'm like in the past too. So, okay, this is what you're taking out a mortgage on. This is the guy that on day 1 on the South Course at 45-1, you were going to bury the sports books with this one. You're going to be instantly rich. Everybody's going to have their own like cool studio. Next time we come on next week, we're going to have like all kinds of really cool things to look at, really expensive things. I'll be wearing a Rolex, you name it, because Keith Mitchell at 45-1 is going to be your first round leader at the Farmers on the South Course come Wednesday evening. Again, this tournament starts tomorrow. So tomorrow night, you guys are going to be flush with cash. Just make sure you put everything you have on it because it is 100% lock.
Yep.
Lock.
Yep. Your parents' home, you can take their mortgage for sure. That's not
yeah. Absolutely. Some banks might still be open, by the way. So you could just walk right in there.
Yeah, for sure.
Figure it out.
Your children's education funds, all of it. Just the whole thing. That's what's important, right? It's
And a
getting
401k. Yeah, I mean, it's
right.
I'm gonna walk to the car lot, walk back from the car lot actually, and then just tell them I'll just hire a jet to go and get my car back.
Well, they
Or
are
not.
saying that it takes a while now for you to get a car, so you're going to need to actually buy it now, so that when you win the money, you can actually get it. 'Cause it's going to take a while before you actually.
Yeah.
You go there now, you just
Okay.
put your name down, you'll get the car.
So everybody, you're welcome for that Keith Mitchell first round leader play. Just thank me with, maybe like when I tweet it out, like give me a like or a retweet when the first round leader hits, and just be like, hey, good job, see ya, thank you. That's all I really want, frankly.
Well, that's a wrap. That's it for this week. We gave you the winners. We gave you the bets. Go build those lineups. Let us know how you did. Come back next week. We're looking forward to see it. But before we go, we got to thank the Maniac, the Model Maniac. He came on. He absolutely rocked it. And check him out. Follow him at the Model Maniac everywhere. He's really entertaining. His obviously models are a little, crazy, because of his name. But
And did you see
other
his
than
lineup?
that, no, but in all seriousness, it was a pleasure having you on. You're an awesome guy. Great get your content this week. Any last words from you?
No, thank you guys. And my YouTube channels, I'm starting to try and grow that a little bit. Back 9 Bets. That's the podcast. And just thanks for having me. I had a blast. Great time. I can't wait for my lineup to win and kick your guys' ass. And just, I was prepared. You guys weren't. It's just how it goes. So thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. Good to see you guys all.
So Byron, people can follow you at Model Maniac. They can subscribe to your YouTube channel, Back 9 Bets. Anywhere else we need to find you, or are those the main places? And also, when do you do your show, your weekly golf show? Like what night do you do it?
It's typically on a Tuesday night, like at 7 o'clock. So Central Time, so 8 But
Whoops.
No, it's all good. And it depends on work sometimes too. So it's like sometime in the evening on a Tuesday. So it's not very solid, but we'll get there. But
All right. So are you recording one tonight, or this week? It's just weird.
I did one over lunch, so I could be here with you guys.
All right, so we can check that out now if we want.
Absolutely,
okay, cool.
Yeah, it's out there.
We're gonna tweet out the lineups tonight because we only have like a few hours before this tournament starts. So there's just one other thing, but I don't know how much you watch the show, but there's just one really important thing we like to do at the end. It's just kind of like a brotherhood, just a familial thing that we just want to like put out there in the universe. Oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. I kind of forgot sports.
I love it.